Burrow is 8 of 15, barely over 50%. Goes deep down the left sideline, and that's caught. That's T. Higgins to the end zone.
Oh, happy Friday to you. It's interesting to see your daily sports podcast, news, narratives, takes, gambling. Thursday night football last night. Some of us have T. Higgins on our fantasy teams, which is exceptional. Congratulations to T. Higgins on his wonderful, wonderful ball game. Bengals beat the Dolphins 27-15. That's not what people are talking about this morning. However, if you watch the game, you know exactly what people are talking about, and it's not a good situation. So we will get into that momentarily. Remember, like, rate, review, subscribe to the pod. Ask your friends to do it too. 5-star ratings mean that more people will listen to the pod, or more people will find the pod. Not that they'll listen. More people will find, which I think is an important distinction. Okay, Football Friday. We got some picks against the spread in the NFL. We'll take a look at some college stuff happening. The first thing that I want to start with before we get into the Thursday night football, really scary, gross thing that happened to Tua Tagovailoa and the surrounding controversial Friday today. Just a quick update, and then we will, I'll find somebody to talk about it in more detail. Next time, the first thing that we got to talk about is that at this point in time, I have no idea if the Tampa Bay Bucks and whoever they're playing, the Chiefs, are going to be playing in Tampa. I would imagine the NFL very much wants that to happen. This hurricane is way worse than I thought it was. Usually I'm like, yeah, Florida hurricanes, like, it's going to suck, but like, they're good. Like, they know what's up. I didn't know that the Tampa part of Florida, the West Coast, they don't see hurricanes come from the Gulf, which is strange. Like, they get impacted, but like, hurricanes never make landfall there, which is weird. Now the hurricane is back out to sea, and it's affecting me. Actually, I got to go to the store this morning to buy shit so all the North Carolinians don't just like take all of the water for a 48-hour rainstorm, which I'm making light of it because it's not going to be as bad in North Carolina, I think, as it is in Florida. But regardless, a couple football games that we're going to talk about that could be affected, of course, Tampa and Kansas City. And in college, ranked on ranked, huge throwdown. That was an epic game last year. NC State and Clemson could be affected right now as I'm recording this in the morning. I don't pre-record for you people for the most part. Sometimes I do. Those games are still scheduled. I have no news for you. None. I have no idea, though. Tampa and Kansas City still scheduled. Also still scheduled NC State and Clemson. Okay, Thursday night football. This is the most important thing. Last week, it looked like Tua Tagovailoa got hit. I think we reported on this a little bit in Controversial Wednesday. He got hit. Looked like a concussion. He was stumbling. He kind of didn't know where he was. Well, when they checked him out, everyone was like, he told the people that it was a back injury, and then the neurologist or the team physician was like, all right, he said it's a back injury. So they didn't put him in concussion protocol, and he returned to the game. Last night, he got a violent concussion. He had what's called the fencer's pose, which is where your fingers and your hands and your arms just kind of get stuck. So have you ever seen somebody that gets knocked the fuck out, and they're flat on their back, but their arms are up, and they kind of look like silly, almost like cerebral palsy, right? Like, I actually think they're connected. I don't think that I'm being inappropriate there. I think that there are. I don't know how the cerebral system works, but I know that fencer's pose is like a thing that happens when you get knocked out. And his was bad. His fingers were all contorted. He was stretchered off. He has returned back to Miami with the team, and it's a concussion. If you get, and I'm not a neurologist, but I do know enough to say that if you get a concussion really close to having another concussion, you are subject, and it's called, if you have one concussion, it's possible to experience something called Post-Concussion Syndrome, which means that if you get another one within the window before your brain is healed, it can kill you. It can ruin your life. There are people, I know, as a Red Wings fan, Johan Franzen very famously, it can ruin your life. Long-term care facilities, and it can kill you, having that happen to your brain. And he was bad, and everybody was watching it. When things like this happen in a primetime game and everyone is watching, it's a whole thing. So people are talking about the Tua thing. It was scary. He was knocked out. He had the fencer's pose, and I mean, right now you just hope that he's okay. We're going to pay attention to this. Sidney Crosby had 2 concussions and had concussion problems back to back. I don't know. It must have been like 2012. And the Penguins were like, "Get the fuck out of here. Go to the Caribbean. Get out of here. Get away from the rink. Go away. Go take care of yourself." Interestingly, Sidney Crosby was on the cutting edge, what they call in medicine, the bleeding edge. He was on the bleeding edge of medical advancements in concussion care by this physician in Massachusetts. And I think it was I don't know, it's Harvard or Mass Gen, who the fuck knows, who cares, they're all the same. One of the Boston hospitals, could be Tufts, I don't know. One of the Boston hospitals had been doing research about, for people who have a difficult time getting over concussions, what can happen is when you try to brace yourself or whatever, the impact on your head is so violent that you forget the impact on your neck, and your neck has your spine, which is your spinal cord. So Sidney Crosby was part of that kind of research, and that's just a little interesting aside, that for people who have violent concussions, make sure you tell your doctor about your neck. Just get your neck looked at also. Okay, so that's what people are talking about today. The NFL Players Association and the NFL are investigating the Miami Dolphins as to why Tua even returned to the game on Sunday, much less was cleared to play on Thursday, and then he got that concussion back-to-back. It's going to be bad. Important to note that Dolphins owner Stephen Ross, who runs the team, has been suspended and is not allowed to be around the organization, quote-unquote, whatever that means, for a couple of weeks because of the Tom Brady-Sean Payton thing. So who the fuck is in charge? This is a mess. And if Tua experiences post-concussion syndrome, the NFL will be on the hook for a preposterous amount of money. The class action lawsuit that was ongoing for a while ended up settling for about $600 million. That's like 25% of owning a team. And Tua's like, it happened, and it was like, it's bad. It's going to be a bad situation. Irregardless, had some bad tweets, including Wade Phillips. Very poor decision and ability to avoid the rush. No wonder he has been hurt. I mean, it's a good take. It's not. What's the term that everyone, tone deaf? Shouts to this guy. I'll pull this up on Twitter. Smalls. What's up, Smalls? Smalls on Twitter. The most important part of this is the screenshot. Look at that. Just, buddy, charge your goddamn phone. So Wade Phillips said, and this is immediately after he's on the ground, very poor decision and ability to avoid the rush. Yeah, he did screw around the pocket. Some big dude, I think from Utah or Oregon, just slammed his shit into the ground, and his head hit the back of the field. And like right away, Wade fires off this tweet, and this is how Twitter works. You got to be the first, right? And that's true. Everything he said is correct. Very poor decision and ability to avoid the rush. Maybe, but just wait a little bit when someone's just like laying there. Just give it 20 seconds so there's an injury happening. Just 20 quick seconds. This is would have saved you there, Wade. And it's been deleted, but screenshots are forever. So people are going to be freaking out about this. This is the biggest story over the weekend. The other part of this that's interesting is that the way that Amazon covered it is being critiqued for two reasons. One, they kept showing the injury. I am on board with that. I think that the only time you don't want to show an injury is, I think you show an injury once if a limb is going the wrong direction. But with the head thing, I don't mind that they kept showing the replay of this, because when bad injuries happen, we don't want to watch. And first of all, the player is not, in my opinion, is that they are not subject to privacy. They're an entertainer. And we occasionally need to be reminded that, hey, this is violent shit. You guys like this, and this can happen. So I don't mind that. The other part of it was that they have three former players. Excellent panel on halftime on Thursday Night Football it is. Tony Gonzalez, who's an A-list former player star, and then they have Ryan Fitzpatrick and Richard Sherman. Those guys are revered by their colleagues, Fitzpatrick and Sherman, for the way that they work. Sherman, of course, will be a Hall of Famer and is perhaps the best at his position to ever play. They are incredibly well-spoken. Fitzpatrick and Sherman went to Harvard and Stanford, respectively. Well, they're fresh out of the league, and they were really worried about their teammate, but everybody was like, hey, you guys need to make sure that everyone understands that there's a controversy here, so that's part of this as well. And the most critical part of the Thursday Night Football broadcast, usually Thursday Night Football has just been good football, but last night there's a whole thing. But the most interesting part is that Al Michaels didn't know what orcs are in Lord of the Rings, which he grew up right when that shit was famous, man. There's no excuse. He called it the ORC Army. That's why fonts are important. If orc was capitalized, he would know to pronounce it. But it looked like an acronym. And what the hell is an orc? An orc is a sound that a pig makes. Orc. Nick, what the fuck are you doing? I have no idea. Let's get into some football stuff. Do I have any other stuff? Oh, yeah, this one. I thought about covering this yesterday, and I just decided not to because whatever. A drone at the University of Cincinnati videoed the Miami Dolphins walkthrough. And then someone TikToked about it. So that's good. It's super good. Great situation there for Miami. They lose the game. They are no longer undefeated. One undefeated team remaining in the National Football League, and let's get to Football Friday. The undefeated team is the Eagles. Let's start in college. Last night, a ranked team, BYU, beat Utah State 38-26. BYU is going to get shit canned by the next good team that they play. They fail once again to cover the spread against an undermanned Mountain West team. This time it was Utah State. Last time it was Wyoming. Wyoming is good. Utah State might not be as good, but Utah State has road games, I believe, against they play an SEC team and then also BYU. Okay, ranked games. Washington, they were unranked. They're playing UCLA. That should be essentially a practice. That's at night. Purdue and Minnesota is interesting. Remember, Minnesota, I thought it was Syracuse, but it's Minnesota, the team that's going to piss everybody off this year. Michigan and Iowa are playing in a game that will melt your brain cells if you like to watch football. It's good defense. It's not. It's not good defense. It's bad offense. And I know that because you guys get annihilated when you play good teams. Texas Tech is playing Kansas State. Kansas State hilariously went to Norman last week and just one-upped their rival, I guess, Kansas. So Kansas State is ranked, but Kansas isn't. Other interesting games, Oregon State at Utah. Oregon State, maybe they can pull off the upset against USC. I don't know. I think the Utah thing, it's a day game. In Salt Lake City, it's noon. At night, Utah would win by 40. But at day game, I don't know. Maybe it'd be a little sleepy. Ranked unranked games, we've got, I think, 4 of them. Going in chronological order from kickoff, number 7 is at number 14, Mississippi. Kentucky, Mississippi. Ole Miss, my alma mater. Lane Kiffin calling out the crowd for not being there. Well, I got news for you, Lane. It's 11 a.m. kickoff. It's not going to be that much better this time. It just isn't. Yeah. Can't wait for him to leave us for Notre Dame. Oh, we have 6, actually. Wake Forest and Florida State are playing. This is a really, really, really big game for Wake because that disappointment of beating Clemson, if they lose this one, they'll be unranked, and then the fun parts of last year might not be repeatable. Oklahoma State's playing Baylor in a game that will matter when they have to have a rematch for the Big 12 championship. Alabama's at Arkansas. This one, Alabama does not look like the way they've looked in the last couple years, and people have always been saying that, and it's been true occasionally, but just because they're taking a step back in whatever position group doesn't mean they're beatable. And even if they're beatable, it doesn't mean they can't win the national championship. They're just so well coached, and they have just such good belief in themselves. It's just such a good program. I do think that Alabama looks softer, and they are certainly not as dynamic offensively as they've been. Bryce Young is a freak, but last year you had Jamison Williams and Brian Robinson and John Mechie. In the previous year it was Mac Jones and Devontae Smith and Waddle, and they had Ruggs and who's the other one? Jerry Jeudy. Just insane. There are no guys like that on this team. Receivers win in college. Arkansas doesn't have any great receivers either, but interesting to keep an eye on that one. I think fourth quarter might be closer than it would appear. NC State and Clemson, that game's still scheduled to happen. We shall see. Other than that, this is going to be kind of a boring, weird week in college football. Really, really putting a lot on Alabama, Arkansas, and Ole Miss and Kentucky to be interesting here. I think that matters a lot because NC State and Clemson could still be canceled. The hurricane is supposed to make landfall in South Carolina now, I guess. So we shall see. Move on to the NFL games this weekend. We'll do best bets. For me, yeah. So we're going to start with interesting games. I think things to keep an eye on. Minnesota and New Orleans is always a game that people are really, they like it for whatever reason. It's because they're 2 dome teams. It's exciting. You've got Randy Moss and Drew Brees and the Miracle in Minneapolis. It's like when they play, it's like a thing for whatever reason. But this time they're not at a dome. They're outdoors at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium because Spurs are playing on the road. You like that? Tennessee and Indianapolis is the most interesting game to me. Both these teams are 1-2, and whoever loses this game won't quite be eliminated from the playoffs, but it's going to be a mess. Tennessee are 3.5-point underdogs on the road in Indianapolis. I think Indianapolis is full of shit, and they suck. This is one of my best bets for the weekend. Let's pull it up. There it is. Bam. Tennessee plus 3.5. Love that. I'm only going to do 4 best bets because I'm trying not to be a psycho. Plus 3.5 is insane. Chicago's schedule has started out against garbage offenses, which is just insane how they've been able to pull this off. They have completed, the Chicago Bears, 23 passes in 3 games. They have completed 23 passes in 3 games. They have completed 23 passes in 3 games. They're 3-point underdogs on the road at New York. Ugh. Woof. The Bills are 3-point favorites at Baltimore. This is another best bet. The Bills are going to crush Baltimore. The Bills are set up to stop teams that throw the ball, and recently the Ravens have become a team that throws the ball. Lamar's going to get his, but Josh Allen's going to get his. I don't think this game will be anywhere near that competitive. Chargers in Houston is interesting. Justin Herbert, they keep playing him despite the rib thing. Brandon Staley's not a very good coach. Detroit opened as 6-point favorites at home against Seattle. That has been reduced to 4.5. That's a lot of movement. Still one of the biggest favorite lines that they've had in years, since maybe 2017 or 2018. They should win. They're going to be missing maybe a lot of guys. Amon-Ra St. Brown, DeAndre Swift, we shall see. The Jets are 3-point underdogs against Pittsburgh. This game's important because Zach Wilson is allegedly going to play. And Jacksonville and Philly, my final best bet. The Jacksonville Jaguars are 6.5-point underdogs on the road at Philly. This is important because Doug Peterson's coming back to Philadelphia. He will receive a rousing ovation. Other than that, the only other game I'm really, really looking forward to, we can talk about on Monday. That is the Los Angeles Rams versus the San Francisco 49ers. Who's going to melt down? The Niners are 1-2. The Rams are 2-1. If everybody's going to be 2-2 in that game, then maybe it won't be that interesting. There are a lot of teams with a lot to lose. Like Arizona's going to Carolina. That should be kind of funny. The Raiders and the Broncos, no matter what happens there, someone's going to be panicking. It's going to be great. I'm really excited for the chaos this weekend, and I'm excited to wake up on Sunday morning and have a game to watch bright and early in London. Oh, my goodness. I love NFL London. I'm a big fan. You know what else I love is hockey players trying to be country music stars. This is Matt Duchene. I don't know, Matt. Don't quit your day job or night job. See you Monday.